You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And, of course, we're your hosts for this show. Ronaldo's already with us, so hello, Ronaldo. And it's good that you're here, Ronaldo, because, this whole thing is really for you. That's right, Ronaldo, one of the guys who has been watching us probably since the beginning of our streaming days, I would imagine. Oh, and Peter Griffin's here, too. That's good. We don't want to leave him out. So it's good that you guys are here because, of course, we're about to review the last episode of the season for Star Wars Visions, Season 2, entitled AU's Song. So this one, it's kind of interesting on this one. Of course, we're, eagerly awaiting to hear your review of this, naturally. Find out if you like it. Because, first we like to give a little bit of a kind of an overview of our thoughts, and then we actually get into the episode. And this time I'm going to not necessarily give too much away about the episode in this introduction, but I will say this. As always, animation was fantastic. It's not necessarily my favorite type of animation, but it was extremely well done. I'm trying to remember the name. I actually have it here. They're actually
Triggerfish.
Triggerfish. They're South African, I believe.
And Ireland.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Because the directors I know were South African, so it's like, but is it an Irish, like a animation studio?
They're both. I think it's a kind of a dual thing, if I'm not mistaken, if I read correctly.
Well, if we didn't, Ronaldo will correct us.
It's like Cape Town, South Africa, and Galway, Ireland. So
interesting. All right. Well, and you can see both cultural influences in this episode, actually. So
yeah.
This is yet another episode that's really common. It's like a common theme in most of the Vision stuff, right? Where there's like a father-daughter. It's usually a father-daughter. Or maybe it's, the two sisters or something like that, where one is kind of trying to, use a particular power, the Force, whatever the case may be, and the other one's discouraging it a little bit. And, it's something that's been used. And it was funny because at first I was watching it and I was like, all right, it's okay. But it was kind of like that last act, the final third, that really started to swing me up and get me into this. Because right out the gate, a couple of things I liked about it, it actually had context. Like, this is the first one, I thought of you instantly. This is the first one that's giving us, like, text in the beginning.
Right.
Here's what's happening. Here's some background. I was like, okay, see, this is good. This is what we need. It was kind of like their version of the opening crawl. This is putting us in this particular part of the universe and giving us context for it. I started to tune out a little bit, like kind of in that middle third or whatever, but it was all right. So what were your thoughts?
I wanted to really like this.
Well, that's good. You didn't hate it, it sounds like.
I mean, no, I didn't hate it. It's just like you said, the animation was good for what it was. For
Right.
the style in which they were going for, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
To my particular cup of tea. Then the whole, I guess it felt like one of those little PBS, cartoons where I couldn't really, get really invested in because it seemed so childlike. It seemed too kiddish for me. So it's almost kind of like how like I felt about Resistance and things like that. Like it was on that
Yeah.
level. So it was kind of like it doesn't allow me to really immerse myself. And much like you, I really didn't get invested into the last third of the episode. Um, like the Jedi that kind of played, that came to visit or whatnot, um, who had the kyber crystal or whatnot, and I like the fact that they kept up with the whole kyber thing. I mean, I like that they bring it up as a reoccurring theme. Um, the whole mine shaft, whether she was down there in the mine thing, and then she starts singing to all the kyber crystals. It was just like, oh my god! Like once again, it got real kiddish for me. And I mean, it's a cute little thing, and that's what I'm saying. Like it's for a younger generation, I could see it. Yeah, for a younger generation, not for me.
All right. Well, Ronaldo's got a couple of thoughts, obviously. He said, yes, it was made by Triggerfish Animation Studio located in Cape Town, South Africa, and Galway, Ireland. He goes on to say, I agree that it felt kiddie, but I had a great time with it. Not great, but just fun. And yeah, I mean, at this point, we could get into it a little bit. So, I mean, it had the animation style, and I had mentioned this before when I was foreshadowing this thing. The animation style had very much of a Moana kind of. If you've ever seen that movie, it had very, very similar animation. It maybe not quite as similar as what I initially thought when I just saw this in the previews, because it was a really quick kind of a thing. But there was definitely that. It lent itself to that style. And yeah, I mean, at first it was kind of like, okay, I was torn, right? Because on one hand, you have this whole thing to where they give us all this background, the whole kyber crystal thing, and everything that's going on, right? You had this kyber mine, you had, they were talking about. I loved how they were exploring the fact that the Sith would bleed these crystals and essentially destroy them. And then you had this group of people that was there that were actually trying to heal the crystals. So from that standpoint, I'm reading this text in the beginning and I'm thinking, okay, this is actually this is a storyline that I would have enjoyed from a proper canon series. If this had been an episode of, I don't know, Rebels, or something like that. I'm trying to think of anything that can, take place in that timeline. I would have been like, okay, this is actually a creative thing. And then, of course, when the Jedi came over and was talking to the father and they were trying to see what they could do with the one crystal that she had in the box, I'm like, all right, they're giving us a little bit of mystery. They're giving us a little bit of a storyline. But then, yeah, then they turn out and, she's trying to sing. And then, of course, the father's trying to stop her. And it's like, better. Don't use this power. You don't know what it's going to do. To me, that's when it started to slip into that whole, typical thing that we've particularly seen with Star Wars Visions. If you look through season 1 and a lot in season 2, you see a lot of this. But I'll tell you this. It's my favorite part of this whole episode. Is that, they're kind of falling, and she's falling, and then you hear that lightsaber ignite. I was like, all right, now we're talking. This is what I'm talking about. That lightsaber sound comes through and it ignites. And you know what? I think Daryl's frozen. You there? All right. Well, he's frozen. I'm gonna send him a quick text while we're while we're talking about this. Gotta love internet issues on live shows, right? But that was one of the things that I thought, okay, this is just really cool. This is just a supremely cool thing. Um, and again, it kind of made up for a lot of the shortcomings when it started to swing up into that last half. That's when I thought things were really starting to get cool. But again, I honestly think that overall, it's kind of like what Ronaldo said. It was kind of fun. All right, you back with us? No, I'm still frozen. All right. I thought that it was sort of a fun episode, but it was just I really think that it suffered from it kind of going down a little bit in the middle. And that was really my biggest problem. I actually didn't have a problem with the whole idea, and you guys will have to excuse me. I'm just trying to text Daryl and try to fix these tech issues at the same time that I'm talking to you guys. But the whole singing thing, right? The whole fact that she had this like singing power or something like that. I mean, and that's where I think it goes into Daryl's point to where it gets a little bit kiddish at that point. We see a little bit of Star Wars resistance there. It was just one of those things that I thought, I mean, it was fine, but at the same time, I think that maybe it could have been a little bit better, a little bit stronger. They could have done something. But, again, I understand what they were going for, and you can't expect every Star Wars thing to have like these super adult themes and super. All right, there you are. You're back. Probably missed a whole bunch of stuff, huh? Did you hear everything? Did you?
So, oh,
Well, you're kind of cutting in and out still.
yeah.
I mean, you're back now. So how much of all that stuff did you hear that I've been talking about? Oh, it's going to be one of these episodes. All right, how much of the stuff...
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, cool. Yep, I'm good.
All right, so how much of everything that I was saying did you hear?
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I kind of figured. All right, well, let me get to a couple more Ronaldo's things. He says, yeah, we're clearly not the audience for this episode. He said, but I found charm
Ronaldo.
In the same way that I did with Resistance. And that's basically it. I mean, basically what I was saying in a nutshell was that, I liked a lot of the themes. I liked a lot of what they were doing. But, when it came to the whole, okay, she's starting to do the whole singing thing or whatever, it was kind of, that was maybe, I mean, I understood it in its context because, again, I thought that if this had been a Rebels episode or something like that, it would have been cool because it was definitely a more adult type theme, right? You had this whole kyber crystal thing. The Sith were bleeding the crystals. They were trying to restore them. And if it had just gone along that trajectory, I think it would have been a really stellar episode. But when it came time for her to be like, oh yeah, she's got some weird force power thing to where she can sing and these things are healed or something. It was like, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little, and then the fact that she was able to like heal an entire mind full of this stuff, and she's like 6 years old. It's just kind of like, all right. I mean, I don't even know how old she's supposed to be, but she gives off the impression that like she's a super young kid. So,
well,
I really didn't really.
No, and that's
I really didn't care for that aspect of it because it's kind of like, all right, some young kids got this force power, and all of a sudden, like she magically heals all the kyber crystals in the mind. That Jedi, coming to her rescue was cool because I was wondering how that was.
That's where you actually dipped out. I was actually saying that what brought me back into this episode was when, they were falling and you just heard that lightsaber ignite really loud. I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, now that's what I'm talking about. That was because that lightsaber igniting happened off screen. They were falling and you
Yeah,
just heard that ultra familiar sound and it was
you already
loud.
knew what it was.
It
Yep.
came through, and you're just like, yeah, that instantly brought me back into the episode actually. And then of course when she rescued him, I'm like, okay, now this is where it's coming back for me. And again, the episode was fine. It's pretty much kind of like what you're saying. I mean, it was kind of stupid that not only it's like, okay, they're expecting me to hang with a bunch of stuff here, right? First, that
Mhm.
this girl somehow knows this melody of a song that can heal not just one, not just 10, but entire mindful of, these kyber crystals. And she only sang it like twice or three times or something.
It is not even. It's implied that she does it all the time because her dad was kind of like, "Look, you can't do this. Look what you do." Because when he showed her his hand, like, "Look, am I doing this for your safety?" You kind of have to relax, and it was.
Well, that was the
It's
whole courage
implied.
versus fear thing, right? I mean, it was kind of one of those things where once again, it's the fact that he was fearful because he didn't know what he knew that her singing was affecting the kyber crystals, but he didn't know what they would do. I think he thought maybe they were just all going to detonate or something.
Yeah. So I think, it's the concept of it was cool. Execution, much like a lot of Disney stuff with Star Wars lately, it was a little lackluster for
A
me.
little, yeah,
I liked, like I said, some of the characters were cool. I It was just the whole singing thing. It's just like that and the animation. Like I said, it's not bad animation for what it's supposed to be for. It's just not. It's almost like folk singing. It's like, okay, somebody could be a perfect folk singer, but if you don't like folk music, it's just not going to land with you. And that's kind of how I felt with this. But as far as the animation is concerned, but story wise, of course, our little hero gets herself in a bit of trouble. I love how I think that was the dad who kind of pulled like a whole Batman maneuver with the little
mm-hmm.
when he jumped down the mine and then grabbed her and snatched her back up. Now it got really the only time I really felt the episode, like we said, is like the suspense when, okay, I'm thinking they're gonna make it across the bridge. He doesn't. She's trying to pull him back up, and she gets taken down. So when they both are falling, I was really wondering, like, okay, well, who's gonna save the day now? But like you
Yep,
said, when you hear that lightsaber ignite, the crackling of that, and you're just like, this Jedi kind of goes down the side of the rock and
yeah.
uses all the force powers, and then this little girl just starts singing once again, and she's floating, and like all these, everything is kind of like right with the world all of a sudden, and it's just kind of like, what? It was just weird.
Well, yeah, it
Um,
was like in the entire mine somehow heard her singing, and again, it was like you said, it was kind of put like in the middle of just you had this really cool introduction, because again, like I said, I mean, when the Jedi came, and I don't know if you missed this part or not, I was talking about how it was really cool when the Jedi came over and they were sort of her and the father were trying to figure out how they were going to heal these kyber crystals and
mhm.
turn them from pretty much the Sith bleeding thing back into their natural state or whatever. I'm like, okay, this is cool. They're setting up a very unique but also
Yeah,
very canonical story. This is something that was
absolutely.
explored in Rebels, I think. I was a little bit in Clone Wars, but I know Rebels was mainly when they started going a little bit kyber crazy. And then of course, you had a lot of it in Rogue One right? Where they carried the
Mhm.
whole, okay, the Death Star laser is made out of Kyber crystal, and they're mining Kyber from Jakku. Or was it Jakku? No, it was Jeddah.
No,
From Jeddah.
Jetta.
And they're doing all this stuff. So it's like, okay, this story is actually taking something that's very much rooted in a lot of the recent canon stories, and they're taking it somewhere else. And not only that, but they even took the time to give us a little bit of context in the beginning with what would have essentially been an opening crawl, except it was just, text on the screen. So I was actually very hopeful that, okay, this episode is a definite step in the right direction, more so than a lot of these episodes. And then, like you said, they just suddenly did this whole, okay, she's going to sing. And it gave me a lot of Rise of Skywalker vibes in the sense that it was so easy. Like there was she just started singing and then all the crystals started healing and then everything was fine. And it's like, okay. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, one thing I did enjoy though was that whole the Jedi's quote that she said was essentially she's like, well, she's got to come with me, and he was just like, well, her life is here. And it's like, well, something about your purpose, and it was kind of she's like, I'll give you guys time to think about it, but essentially, like, your purpose in life, you have to follow that, and
Mm-hmm.
the father eventually had to let her go because he's like, well, even though your life is here, like your purpose is elsewhere, and so I thought that was kind of a really cool moment. um yeah, it's like I said, conceptually it's a cool story. Like you said, it's very canonical, it's very um
Well, and it dealt with a lot of cool themes too, right? It was the idea was courage. The idea was that all these people were afraid. Like they knew about her little song thing
gift.
going or whatever. Yeah, but they were afraid because they kept saying, "Look, we don't know what this is going to do to the Kyber. You got to stop. We told you about
because
this."
because it's our livelihood too. That's the other thing. It's like,
Mhm.
not only do we not know what this is going to do, like if it's volatile, because like it seems to shake and act a little funky when you start singing around it. But the thing is like if you destroy this stuff, it's like we have no, like, this is our main export. This is how we make money. This is how we make a living,
Well, and
because this
exactly. It
this
was
planet is full of it.
right.
So this is their job. So like if you destroy this stuff, you've basically killed our livelihood.
Yeah, the entire economy, well, I guess of the planet, it seems. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how widespread this is, but and you see that too because it's a big scene that we didn't really talk about yet, how she decided to sneak into the mine or whatever, and she found that alternate way in, and then she pretty much from there, she started to sing, but then she was stopped. And that was the thing, and it was like, in a lot of ways you definitely had the theme of courage to where these guys were just comfortable with the status quo. Of course, they were trying to figure out how to heal the crystal, but at the same time, they're like, well, all right, don't do what you're doing here because we don't know what that's going to do. We don't know the effect that it's going to have. And you can
Hmm.
understand that. It's really easy
Absolutely.
being us because as the audience, because look, we know the outcome and we pretty much figure out what's going to happen based on the title of the episode and even the synopsis. But, when you actually put yourself into the position of the people that are in the episode and you got this entire mind full of crystal and you know that your song is affecting it somehow, yeah, you don't know. I mean, is this thing going to have like some sort of a weird like nuclear detonation kind of thing? It's going to wipe out the entire planet. I mean, who knows?
Hmm.
So I like the way that it dealt with those themes too. Is just again, it was kind of like you said, it was actually a really well conceived story. Probably in a lot of ways closer to what we would consider the proper Star Wars canon than any other Visions episode, really. I mean, there's a lot of Visions episodes where we go, oh yeah, we would love for this to be made canon, or we would like to, maybe see where this goes or something like that. But this, I think, is the first episode that really, just as it is, you can almost make it part of the canon in a sense. Let me get to some of these Ronaldo chats. He only has a couple of them. He says, yeah, the type of thing used to bother me too. At this point, I got used to kids having magical powers in this, kind of. And then he goes on to say, that sound, the whole lightsaber igniting was amazing. And yeah, I guess more than anything, I think that Visions does spend a lot of time dealing with more, I don't know, in some ways they're kid-friendly issues. I guess in some ways they're not, but, it does seem to be aimed towards kids, maybe not quite to the degree Resistance is, because there are some really dark, violent episodes of Visions. But,
yeah,
at the same time, there's also a lot that are, I don't know, it seem like they're aimed towards kids or something. Let me see. Ronaldo's got another chat coming in here. I'll just wait for that to pop through. It says, I would like to see what happens next, but I think he could be self-contained. Yeah, this episode could be, I think, more self-contained. There have been a lot of episodes this season that I felt could definitely go on. And not only did I think they could go on, but I remember both you and I have said, oh, I would like to actually see a sequel to this episode, which is something we very rarely said in season 1. So with that said, I guess first we could do our rating for this episode, because I want to spend the next portion of our show doing kind of a season wrap-up as a whole. So what would you give this episode as far as a ranking? And by the way, while he's thinking about it, there's a poll in the chats that if you guys haven't already taken, we would love for you to take. Okay, so now, while you're thinking about it, Ronaldo, not disappointing in his weird numbering system, gives it an 8.1.
Wow.
I know. Well, he's a fan.
He's Ronaldo, yeah.
He's a Visions fan. He's always going to give it some ridiculous thing. I can tell you this. I'm going to give it a 6.5. And
I was giving it a 5.5.
All right, you're going to give it a 5.5. I'm going to give it a 6.5, simply because I could have almost given it a 7, but I didn't want to put it that high because I have given other better episodes a 7. But the reason why I'm giving it a 6.5, and again, I'm not necessarily trying to rank these according to my enjoyment of the episodes. If I were giving an honest assessment according to my enjoyment, it would probably be closer to your ranking. It'd probably be like a 5, 5.5. Like, I didn't hate it, right? It was good.
Right.
But, it wasn't setting the world on fire for me, and I really don't have a desire to see it again. Except for that one Jedi scene where she ignites her saber. That was actually kind of cool. That scene I might watch again. Don't know if I really need to see the episode again. Were there other episodes this season that I would actually go back and watch? But I give it a 6.5 only because, other than that middle third, they really set up a great story. And I also thought they finished pretty well. It was just that middle third that just wasn't doing it for me. And then add to that, even though this technically probably happened in the final third, but when she was singing and then all the kyber crystals magically turned back, and it's like, okay. Are you telling me that only now have you decided to do this? I don't know, it felt rushed. It gave me a very much of a Rise of Skywalker rushed vibe.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 5.5 just simply because, although the animation was good, it just didn't tickle my fancy at all. the same thing that you said, in the sense of the middle portion, the crux of the matter kind of lost me. And then outside of, I mean, the literally the last third of the episode was cool, except for you know, I can heal a whole mind with a couple of notes. It was just like, okay, man, of course we all know it's the force and everything like that, but it's like that's her force power. And I guess they're trying to reveal like a new horsepower, like force healing and
Well,
all that
kind
type of
of.
stuff.
You know what this gave me was very much High Republic vibes. I think it was what's her face of our Chris or something like that. I think she's the one that actually could hear the songs of everybody within the Force, and
Hmm.
she
Hmm.
very much had this like musical force power. So I think that they were actually borrowing a little bit of the High Republic's thing and putting it into this. So I mean, it's not super old, but it's not like they really totally invented a new force power for this. But it is newish, and yeah, it's the thing. It was just the way that it was handled. If they had handled this better, I probably would have ranked it higher. And I certainly would have enjoyed it more. Because, like I said, I mean, I would actually be more along your rankings if we were talking about how much I
Hmm.
enjoyed it. I mean, it's all right. I don't really, but I don't have this overwhelming desire to turn the thing off. And I thought the setup was really good, and then the conclusion was really good. It just, it fell apart in the middle. I mean, this is the bottom line: is it fell apart in the middle.
Yep.
So now we're going to go into what we actually thought of the entire season as a whole, and we'll kind of wrap things up there. If you guys haven't had a chance though to hit that like button, it would really, really be super cool if you guys would hit the like button. And if you're not yet subscribed, of course, hit the subscribe button. But please hit that like button so that way the algorithm rewards us by putting our show in front of more viewers, and then hopefully more and more people can join this community. All right, so as far as the season goes, what would you say is your sort of your final wrap up comments for the season?
Like ranking or just my actual comments?
Both.
I would give this season a 7.
I think so. I think
It
I'm right
it
there too.
it was a whole lot better than season 1.
Oh yeah.
I think it it definitely benefited from the different cultures that were represented.
Mm-hmm.
Using those different animation studios really brought a lot more life to this season. Some of the stories felt more Star Wars like in their presentation, so it was easier to kind of get into. Um, and some of them had really compelling. Either they did something super cool with animation, like really nice animation, or they told a cool story, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, like where I want to see more or see the continuation of the adventures of. So I think, but it wasn't anything that really made me like, man, like there was not one episode that I could say like this was like a 9 or 10 or like I can never get those ratings. So I will have to,
There was one that came
if I'm
close though. I remember we were saying that we would have given it a 9 or a 10, but because it's Visions, we gave it an 8. Because our whole thing is like, look, we're giving like Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One. We're giving stuff like that, like 9s and 10s. You don't want to put Visions
well,
quite there, but
I always cater it to like what the medium, what the context is. So it's like if it's a 10 for Visions, it's a 10 for Visions. Now that
okay.
doesn't mean if you put up against Empire Strikes Back, it's probably a 1, but but for Visions, it is, that's how I look at things. But um even for Visions though, like I said, there wasn't really an episode that there was one that was really good. One of the latter ones with the guy on the train, and then they hopped off, and then they had the little Aladdin. I think it was like
Yeah,
episode
the
8.
Indian one. Yeah, it was
Yeah, I think
actually
that was
7, I think.
7 or 8.
7 or 8,
That one was
yeah.
really cool. That one was really cool.
And
I
then
really
whichever
would have
one
loved
was
to see more.
before the dancer one. Because that
Oh
was
yeah,
similar to that one. There was one that was right before the dancer one that I thought was actually really cool too. And it was because there was one of those that I know I gave it like an 8 or an 8.5. And I remember, or maybe I gave it like an 8 because I'm like, okay, I can't give it any higher than that because, now I'm getting. Because I don't actually rank these things. Personally, I don't rank these according to, okay, for Visions, you get a whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
My whole scale is like 0 to 10. And all Star Wars content is going to fall somewhere in that scale. I'm not grading on the curve necessarily. And that was one of the reasons why I had a really hard time. I wish I can remember which episode that was. But you guys can find out if you go back and actually watch all of our reviews of this season's Visions. Well, I messed that one up. But pretty much if you go back and watch all of our reviews of this season, you'll find the one that we basically did say, like, yeah, this is really good, but man, I almost want to give it like a 9 or something for Visions, but then if I give it a 9, it's almost like it cheapens it for the other stuff. But yeah, I would actually pretty much echo a lot of your sentiments, honestly, because pretty much everything you said is everything that I felt too, right? It's a significant step above season 1. It was actually way more Star Wars-ish. Like, it felt more like Star Wars. It didn't feel like they were just borrowing from the Star Wars universe and applying it to their own stories. It actually felt like they were taking, first of all, whatever culture the animation studio was from and infusing that into the Star Wars universe, as well as just some different kinds of stories. But again, the common thread was they all fit within the Star Wars universe, right? This actually felt like I could see these things taking place in Star Wars. And then, again, probably the biggest compliment, and then Ronaldo's got some chats that I'll get to, but one of the biggest compliments I can pay this thing is when season 1 was done, I mean, I could not wait until it was done. I mean, we made the joke about you, and of course I found a lot of good in all the episodes, but by the time we got to 9, I was just like, you know what? I'm pretty much ready for this.
Pull the plug on this.
Exactly. It's like, all right, are we there yet? That kind of thing, right? And much like you, I was like, all right, if they do a season 2, we'll be right there. We'll do it. But I wasn't really clamoring for that. The biggest compliment that I could pay to this season is I was not necessarily going, okay, I can't wait till we hit episode 9 so we can be done with this. I mean, there are other things, especially in light of the fact that we're going to make the Friday show eventually a general entertainment-based show. So we do need to start to free up our Monday shows for other Star Wars-related stuff. But I wasn't necessarily... Like, I was actually looking forward to seeing what Visions had in store for me next, which was not a feeling I had with season 1 at all. It was really more like, oh, crap, I got to, get this episode done so we can review it and I can get on with my life. The other compliment I can pay it is I am looking, I'll say that I'm looking totally forward, but I'm looking a lot more forward to a season 3. I am curious on what they will do in season 3. My heart won't be broken if there is not a season 3. I can't say that I'm like I'm not, although I do actually have a couple of Visions t-shirts, my little Darth Vader samurai thing and, a couple of the other stuff, but I'm not totally drinking the Visions Kool-Aid yet, but I overall enjoyed the ride this season. I did. I'll be honest. I did. I mean, I feel like I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. My name's Eric, and I kind of enjoyed season 2 of Visions. And if they came out with season 3, I am less angry. Yeah, angry and apprehensive about reviewing it. That's probably the best compliment I could pay this.
Okay.
So now
it was just tolerable. It was tolerable for me.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so now before we get to some of Ronaldo's comments, if you had to give an overall, rating for season 2, what's
7.
it gonna? 7? Yeah, I think you said that, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that because honestly, there were more 7s and 8s than there were 5s and 6s. I think you actually gave the first episode like a 2 or something, or it was something like crazy low. And I think the only reason you gave it, like, maybe it was like a 3 or something like that. It was only because the animation was just so incredible on that episode. You're like, all right, I got to give it to him for that, but yeah, man.
That's about it.
All right, so Ronaldo is chatting feverishly. Let me get some of these in here. He says, I give season 2 a 9.8. You did not disappoint, Ronaldo. You're giving us those weird numbers again. It was amazing. Better than the first one. Okay. Visions is what creativity behind the screen should be. Martin Scorsese. He didn't say that.
That's not how the Force works.
Visions is a definition of faster, more intense, George Lucas. No way. You got to give us sources. You got to give us links on that one.
No,
you're starting to.
This is all cap.
This is sounding like if you guys remember Super Shadow. I don't know if anybody remembers Super Shadow. Oh, here's another one. The best technological advancement in this century, James Cameron. Wait a minute. He says these are legit reviews, by the way. I didn't just make them up. You got to give me sources for that one. Like the Scorsese and the Lucas one.
All of them.
Well, yeah, even the camera one, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. I want to believe you, Ronaldo, because I know you're generally an honest guy. But I'm thinking maybe you're not just drinking the Kool-Aid on this. Maybe you're drinking a little bit of spiked Kool-Aid on this. Yeah.
I was sitting here with this cup too.
He says, well, wait, what you got in that one? You always share your little cocktails because I know you.
The end of Visions. This is going to give me some visions.
You're celebrating with this one. Hopefully we'll see a season 3. I love this. Again, I will say, last year I would have been shredding that comment. This year, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm looking forward to it, but I am intrigued. And if they come out with a season 3, I will be looking more forward to seeing it than I was when season 2 dropped. How's that? That's about the best that I think you're going to get from me. He says, any culture you'd like to see represented next? That's actually a really good question.
I can't say because I'm not an anime fan like that, so I can't even tell you. Like, I can't just say, "Oh, I would love to see," something from Korea or something like that. Because,
well, I mean, I would say this: I would kind of like to see a Russian anime because Russia's got such if you go back into their history and all that stuff, and even see some of their animation projects. Because, again, anime, traditionally speaking, is Japanese. And there's obviously other animation studios. But I don't know if I would necessarily call them anime, right? It's sort of like if just taking this for instance, like say a South African animation studio, did an anime style. They would be putting their own spin on the Japanese anime style. Otherwise, I mean, it's just their culture of animation. It's no different than American animation. It's, I mean, there is some American anime type stuff too, I guess. But yeah, like Russian, because some of the Russian animation projects are sort of cool. Maybe not the most popular thing to say right now, but given the world situation, but just saying. In French, I actually wouldn't mind seeing French animation. I don't think we got anything this season from France.
I thought we did.
Did we? Yeah, we may have. But I wouldn't mind seeing more of it because the French animation style is actually kind of cool too. German would be cool. Yeah, maybe Chinese. Because
Mexican.
Yeah, did we get something from Mexico though?
I don't know. I mean, but I don't even know if they have. I mean, they may have had their own.
Well, it just shows you how big of fans of Visions we are that we remembered some of them. Like I remember the Indian one. I remember that there was
New Zealand. I know
New Zealand. Yeah, I think there was like an Australian one too or something. But
Australian.
But Mexican, yeah, that would actually be really cool. Or some more of the South American countries, because actually, if you look at a lot of South American-based animation, it's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, it's cool. So if you apply that to either in its purest form to Star Wars, or if you get like a South American studio doing their own spin on Japanese anime, that would be kind of cool too. And Ronaldo chatted in a bunch that he'd like to see. He brought up Egyptian. That's a good one.
That would be cool.
Egyptian and Chinese would be cool. He says, "This is my source. Trust me, bro." You can't do it. Trust me, bro, on this. Ronaldo,
no,
we trust you. We trust you all the time. You're the one that actually corrects us and tells us all this stuff. And
that's why he's like this. Listen to me.
I know. And I mean, I get it. And I really do. I want to trust you, Ronaldo. You have no idea how much I want to.
Trust him.
But I mean, if you would even give me one of those, but 3, I mean, you know what? We could probably look them up too. And then of course he actually said German. German would be cool too. Yeah. So those would be, I think, some possibilities that would be nice is if they open it up even more in season 3 and said, okay, let's invite more animation studios from a variety of countries to participate in this. I think, honestly, that was the key. Yeah, Ronaldo says, nah, I was kidding. It's like, yeah, you don't say. That's one of the things that I think really did make season 2 stand out so much, is the fact that they opened it up and they brought in all these different animation studios to do something unique and something different. And that's what I think we need to see more from in season 3 if they make a season 3. Now, let's do an over-under. Percentage-wise, what are you think the over-under, what do you think the possibilities of them even doing a season 3 are at this point?
I don't know. It's with Kathleen hanging around, who God knows. I mean, it's
I'm gonna say there's a 65 to 70% chance that we get a season 3. And the reason I say that, I know that's high, but the reason why I say that is because, honestly, dude, I thought for sure there was no way on God's green earth that we were going to get a season 2 of this show. I did not think it was that popular. They had released a book. What's the guy's name from the first episode? Like Ronan or something?
Ronan.
Yeah. They tried to spin him off into a novel. It didn't really sell well. So nobody. I mean, I remember when you and I were joking at the end of season 1, and of course, I was harassing you about hating the series and all that. It's just kind of like I remember going, well, if they do season 2, we got to be right back there. And of course, you were, spouting and probably swearing and whatever under your breath or whatever. But honestly, I was joking. I thought we were in zero danger. You have no idea. Other than the fun of giving you the news, you have no idea how dumbfounded and sort of bummed I was. That it's like,
Yes.
oh, dude, we gotta actually review this now. Which, by the
I'll tell
way,
you, watch your mouth. Stop.
yeah, right. Don't put it out in the universe, right?
Exactly.
Hey, guys, don't forget, while we're still kind of yapping and closing this out, to at the top of the chat, there's a poll, and we were asking if you guys enjoyed the season 2 of Visions. We got a couple of votes so far, 100%, probably because it was Ronaldo.
No.
Maybe Ronaldo voted twice. I don't know. I don't know how that works. And hit the like button, because again, that like button really does trigger YouTube's algorithm, and it puts us in front of more people. And that's pretty much what we want. But yeah, nobody was more surprised than me. So the reason why I give it that high, like a 65 to 70%, is because I think that with season 2, they ended up really hitting their stride. I think they really figured it out this time, where season 1, I think it was a little bit more experimental. They were just kind of seeing what happened. I think by expanding it to more animation studios around the world, and they came up with a lot of really compelling stories, and I think that there's a really good chance that it might lock. Now, I don't know numbers. I have not seen any numbers as far as, how successful this thing is, or, but then again, I didn't really see the numbers from 1 either. Now, of course, I didn't care at that point. Like, now I'd be a little bit more curious, but I just think that there's a higher percentage than normal that we might actually get a season 3. Okay, so now we got some other people, in addition to Ronaldo, we got some other people chatting in too. So let's get to those. So Ronaldo says over 90%. This is awesome. Ronaldo, of course, we know that you're going to say that. You would have said that even if there was no chance, I think. But you know what? I said 65 to 70. You say 90. I don't necessarily disagree with you. Did you think of anything yet, Daryl, that you want to guess?
I'll say it's a 60% chance that it's probably going to happen, just because.
He says, like, enthusiastically.
Yes. They want me to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy's like,
existence.
You know what? This guy is
bash
hilarious.
me all the time on the show. We're going to put him another, another 3 season.
It's like one more time, and you get season 3. You do it again, and we're going 4. All right, so Peter Griffin says, I still got the Duel, Ninth Jedi, and The Elder from season 1 as my favorites. The Elder was actually pretty cool. I remember that one. But enjoyed season 2. I hope they do a season 3. Yeah, and Ninth Jedi was really good too, but The Elder was probably arguably my favorite one. Because at first I was going to say, like, I forgot what the first one was. I forgot what the one with Ronan. I forgot what that one was called. I'm sure Ronaldo knows. But it was different. It was weird. Got the umbrella lightsaber. That was actually the one that when I commented on, some social justice warrior commented in and started correcting me. But, Peter Griffin said that was the Duel. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, you can tell. We didn't. I'm actually impressed that I remembered what the Ninth Jedi and the Elder were even about, so. Ronaldo says, Jeff Snyder did say that season 3 is coming. Really? Okay. Who's Jeff Snyder?
Obviously someone who has to deal with season 3, probably.
Either that, or maybe it's another one of his made-up friends. Just saying. Scorsese,
Cameron and Lucas.
Cameron and all those guys. It's like, how do I know they're real? Because we don't always do our homework on this show. Especially when it comes to visions. It's like, look, you guys are just kind of lucky that we even reviewed this show. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm like the kids. I just watch it and hope them turn something in.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of like that homework assignment you got to do and you cram at the last minute. But I do have to say that I enjoy our visions discussions, especially when we got like all you guys chatting with us. Then it becomes more fun. I Am Just Me says, I didn't see it yet, but from what you're saying, I'm going to assume it's good. You're going to assume it's good from what we're saying. That's impressive. Because we've notoriously hated on this show in the past. But you know what? You can take that as a sign, because even we're ranking it pretty high. I mean, what do we do? Give the overall thing like a 7? That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that that's astounding when it comes to visions. Like, if Daryl and I are ranking Vision this season as a 7, that'd be like a 10 in everybody else's numbers. So, yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. All right. Ronaldo says, this type of anthologies have a very specific demographic, and they usually have big ratings in that area. That's actually a really good point. That's a good point, that because this is kind of a niche down show and it appeals to a particular demographic, if that demographic, and that would be the key, by the way, if that demographic is responding, and I mean, we see that they must have in season 1 because we got a season 2. And I think you're right. I think I might have even mentioned this now that I'm, thinking back and the brain's starting to fire up a little bit. I think I mentioned like 3 or 4 episodes ago that I did read that season 3 got greenlit. Because I remember joking about it with you. And then, of course, talking about the duel when Peter Griffin was saying that, that's the one with Ronan. He was like, that was my favorite. The Sith who hunts other Sith for their Kybers. Again, that was one of the things, being that I'm a casual anime fan. I won't say that I'm a super anime fan, but, I have the ones I love, right? Vampire Hunter D, Fist of the North Star. As far as some of the later ones, I mean, there's a bunch of them that I used to watch, particularly in the 90s. Like in the 90s, I was really big into anime. I admittedly haven't kept up with much, but I will say this. Netflix has been running this new Ultraman series that's very much an anime-style version of it. And it's incredible. I think they're on season 3 now. Peter Griffin was actually asking Ronaldo a question. Do you know the Ahsoka episode 1 release date? He might not, but we do. It's August, 14th? 24th? 9th?
It's before your birthday.
Yeah, you're right. It might be like 9th. It might be like the 9th or the 14th. It's not too far before my birthday. It's around that time. So, all right, maybe Ronaldo knows. He says, Jeff is a scooper. I think he said it on John Roca's channel. Okay, that makes sense. But I do remember reading independently that season 3 got greenlit. I Am Just Me says, well, seems like you want a season 3. If it was trash, you'd be like, throw it away. Yeah.
August 23rd is Ahsoka.
And that's what Ronaldo actually texted into. I think it's August 23rd. So, yes, it is August 23rd. Peter Griffin said, nice. I knew it was coming soon. So, yes. And as far as season 3, I mean, to say that I want a season 3 might be just a tad bit of an overreach. Maybe it would be more accurate to say that I am curious about season 3, and that I would, if they made it, I would be more into doing season 3 than I was going into season 2. So you could say overall that Visions has kind of won me over a little bit. Not ridiculously so, but I've warmed up to it quite a bit. So it's not like when season 3 drops, I'm not going to be like, oh. Now, Daryl might still be that way. I don't know. You might still be like, oh, man. Is it that time again? But
Yeah.
But we're going to have to figure it out too, because, once we start doing our Friday shows, which again, we'll dedicate our Friday shows to general entertainment stuff. I mean, Star Wars could still certainly be in there, especially if you guys are all chatting and you want to talk about it. It's not like we're not going to talk about it, but we'll start to focus on other franchises, other properties other than Star Wars. It'll be more of a general entertainment show. It'll be kind of like an entertainment-wide discussion show, so anything that you guys want to say, ooh, we got our first no. So there, on our vote, I think we got 4 votes so far. We got 75% yes, 25% no. Somebody, no, Daryl, you didn't go in and vote, did you? Okay. No, just want to make sure you're not.
Now.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you're not.
Stacking the deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Stacking the deck.
I don't understand. There's like everybody's loving it, but yet we got like 80% no. But once we actually do the general entertainment show, we're going to have to figure out how we're going to handle the Star Wars thing too, because with all of these reviews that are coming out for the shows that are coming up. Right? Because we're going to have to review Ahsoka. There's another show coming, like, at some point.
Skeleton Crew?
Maybe. Oh, well, and then, of course, there was a news that dropped today of, there's going to be, like, a trans character, like a trans actor / character for Acolyte. It's, like, the first one. It's a minor character, so it's, like, we got to brace ourselves for that one. Peter Griffin says, Secret Invasion, Witcher. You know what? I gotta watch Witcher. So I had the game Witcher, like Witcher 3 or something. And it was really cool. And a bunch of people were talking about that series and how good it was, particularly season 1. I know in season 2, and I think they got like 3 seasons of that show out now. But yeah, I mean, I'd be open. Look, if you guys have other franchises, other content that you want us to talk about, you can let us know. Now, again, I'm going to need you guys to subscribe to the Eric Vansel Media channel. If you just go into YouTube, search Eric Vansel Media, and subscribe to that channel, because that's where that program is going to live. We are going to stream it to this one for a while. But being that this is somewhat of a Star Wars-centric channel, I don't really want to mess up the algorithm too much, and I don't want to confuse a lot of viewers, because what we're more than likely going to have to do is do some pre-recorded stuff that isn't live and just put that up as additional content, because you guys know there's going to be plenty of stuff going on, especially the closer we get to some of these projects coming out, especially the films and all that stuff. There's just going to be a lot of news. I mean, you guys have seen it. We're trying to do, a review on one day, but then there's all this news coming out another day. So we might actually have to divide some things up again, kind of like how we used to do it, where we had multiple segments or something per episode. So on our Monday Star Wars only show, maybe we dedicate, I don't know, like the first half hour to 45 minutes of a review. And then maybe we do another 15 to half hour of a general Star Wars talk. I mean, it could go as long as, you guys want to chat. That's not a problem. And then Peter Griffin says, Wheel of Time at the same time as Ahsoka. Yeah, I know. Oh, David. Hello, gentlemen. Sorry I'm late. I had church tonight. Glad Visions is over. For once, I'm with Daryl. Visions sucks. It's only good in theory. So, I guess, David, you would be giving Visions a 0 out of 10, perhaps, as far as your rating for the season. Or maybe, David, you were the guy in the poll that voted no. You didn't like this season of Visions. All right. I understand. Peter Griffin says, well, a week later, most hated it, but not. And then he says, oh, David, you sound like me with the prequels. Oh, you hate the prequels? Did you watch our prequel reviews? Like when we did the whole What is Star Wars and we reviewed each one of the films? I'd be curious on your thoughts on those if you want to leave those in the comment section. Those were actually interesting. I don't think we were too hard on the prequels. It was a sequel trilogy that we started to beat up, particularly Rise of Skywalker. I remember that was that was actually pretty fun. But yeah, you guys are welcome to suggest any series you want to talk about. I mean, look, we're probably going to end up doing something like, because you guys know, anybody that's been watching this show for a while, you know that we have talked about other shows while right in the middle of Star Wars. Well, we might be something like, oh yeah, just like in Cobra Kai, and then we talk about Cobra Kai for like 10 minutes, and then we reel it back into Star Wars. So at some point, I'm thinking we're probably going to be doing a Cobra Kai retrospective review, something like that. I don't know, discussion. And it's going to be interesting to even see how we frame this, right? Because obviously we want to get everybody involved. I mean, the one thing about Star Wars is that you can generally get everybody involved, even if they didn't like, I mean, look at Visions. There's a lot of you guys that don't even like Visions, but you're talking about it with us. So we definitely want you guys' input as far as what other franchises and movies, TV, whatever, streaming that you guys want to talk about, because, then we'll maybe start with that, since you guys are regular viewers and chatters. So Peter Griffin said, no, I missed those breakdowns. I'll have to check them out. Yeah, check them out. I'd be curious on your thoughts. Leave a comment for each one. There's only 3 of them. He says, prequels make the sequels look like a masterpiece, in my honest opinion. Wow. All right. It's interesting because a lot of people have been warming up to the prequels in recent years. What you're talking about is kind of the way, back when they were being made, late 90s, early 2000s, and everybody was like, George Lucas ruined my childhood and all this other stuff. But yeah, I would be really curious on what you think of maybe our insights. Again, if you think we're off base on what we're saying, leave it in the comments. We're not, we got thick skin. Especially with some of the people that, have taken exception to what we said. There are a few out there. All right, so with that said, this Friday, though, we'll still be doing Star Wars. We will let you guys know. I'm thinking sometime end of July, early August. Maybe that's when we'll port this thing over to the entertainment only thing. I mean, we're still coming up with the name of the show. Got to come up with some graphics. I mean, they'll be similar, I guess, but the format of the show is going to be very similar. It's going to be Daryl and I talking, and we'll be on here and chatting with you guys. It'll just be about more than Star Wars. But we don't actually have anything for this Friday yet, do we?
Not at this time.
Is there anything that's jumped out at you that you think might be worthy to do? Or, I mean, not to put you on the spot or anything, but, And look, you guys watching too. I mean, is there anything that's jumped out in the Star Wars world that you think would be good for us to talk about on Friday? You guys are watching the show. You might as well have input into what we talk about, right? But do you have anything? I mean, like I said, there's been a couple of things that, have been jumping off. But, I don't know. David, while you're thinking about that, David says, the movie breakdowns were great. Good. I'm glad you liked them. I know you chatted on a number of them. I'm also glad that you went back and you were able to watch any that you missed. And then, of course, you guys really wanted to have some fun. Watch our Andor breakdowns, because thanks to David, those were legendary. Peter Griffin says, just waiting on Ahsoka pretty much. Yeah, and I've noticed there's been like kind of a lull in Star Wars news lately even. That's usually how it is, right? Feast or famine. I mean, you usually end up seeing either like all this stuff is dropping at once, and we're just kind of like, okay, what's the most prominent thing we can talk about? I mean, another thing that I thought was funny, if you guys didn't see this, Harrison Ford appeared on Conan O'Brien because he was promoting, the latest Indiana Jones film. And it was funny because I guess Conan messed up, like, he was like, yeah, you're that character in Star Wars, and he kind of like blanked out or something. And Harrison's like, you mean Han Solo? And then he just proceeded to like just rip into him. It was so hilarious. He goes, yeah, I guess that's why you're not on TV anymore. And, I mean, he was just kind of like, roasting him a little and joking around, but it was so funny though. So if you have a chance, go back and watch Conan O'Brien, Harrison Ford. Just search that on YouTube. It's hilarious. So, I mean, and I still haven't seen the Indiana Jones film. Have you seen it yet?
Nope.
Yeah. Well, that was right. You and I were going to actually try to check that out. Maybe we should try to check that out this week. All right.
Well, for Friday, there is this thing that I found that could be interesting.
Oh yeah?
It's the greatest Jedi of all time. Dave Filoni divides Star Wars fans with controversial choice.
Ooh, send that to me, because anytime, and I mean anytime, we put Dave Filoni in the title of our show, it gets hundreds or thousands of views. I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. But at this point, I don't question it. If Dave Filoni is anywhere near anything, I mean, if we just ended up changing ourselves to Head-to-Head, a Dave Filoni Star Wars podcast, at this point, I'm like open to anything because I would love to have viewers. Oh, and then Ronaldo, I guess you saw the, you saw it. It's good. He means the Indiana Jones movie. You thought Visions was amazing. You're giving it like practically like a 10 or something.
Well, that's because he's friends with James Cameron and George Lucas.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese and, all those other guys, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, send that to me. That's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about what Dave Filoni says is the greatest Jedi. It's a controversial choice. You heard it here first. Check us out Friday night at 8. So until then, I want to thank all you guys for chatting in, giving us your insight on Visions. I hope you guys enjoyed our whole Visions review for season 2. Of course, should they make a season 3, and it does seem to be greenlit. I remember reading that somewhere, and then Ronaldo made up a bunch of people that said it, so it should be coming out. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably going to be around 2025, maybe 26. Peter Griffin says, is Dave calling Obi's high ground a cheat code then? I mean, we'll see. You're just gonna have Friday. You're just gonna have to watch us Friday at 8, and we'll break down whatever it was that Dave Filoni said. So until then, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.